This is movable type. The letters on the tips of the little pieces of lead. I didn't look to see what it was. Oh, it's a G. Okay.
Capital G?
Yes. So you see the letters here on the end. Put these together for your words. Yeah. All right. This was Gutenberg's invention. You see that? So prior to Gutenberg, everything is manuscript, handwritten documents. So if you wanted a Bible for your home, you would hire a scribe. Scribes were the highest paid profession of their day. So in today's economy, think of doctors and lawyers and things. But instead of a 15-minute visit with your doctor or an hour consultation with your attorney, this guy's going to be on your payroll for a long time. He's going to work for you 8 to 10 hours a day, 6 days a week, for 2.5 to 3.5 years to make a Bible for your home. So it was very, very, very expensive. Consequently, very few people could learn to read and write. Any written materials were far out of reach for most people. So Johannes Gutenberg's father ran the city mint, making the coins and so forth for the city and the surrounding area. So young Johann grew up doing the engraving and working with metals, and he has this idea for movable type. He approaches his father and asks for his inheritance in advance. Father gives him the inheritance, and he uses it, and he works and he works and he works, and he has to figure out all of these details. It's one thing to have an idea, but he's got to work out all of the details. So he has to figure out what type of metal to cast, tries all kinds of metals and alloys. He has to, when he starts casting the letters, he has to figure out how to put them in a frame that'll hold them and then release them and quickly put more letters in, how they'd fit together. The paper, how to index the paper, all these different things. The ink, he had to come up with his own ink. So while he's doing all this, he's running out of his money eventually, and he brings in 3 investors, 3 good friends of his. They swear each other to secrecy, and they go forward with this project of movable type. I need to pause here for just a second. Gutenberg was not the first to invent movable type. There was a Chinese inventor about 700 years earlier, but he had over 3,500 characters to work with, so it was very cumbersome. So then, there were about 300 years later, there's a Korean inventor. He invented movable type, but he had over 1,400 characters to deal with. So, again, very cumbersome. When Gutenberg has the idea in 1450, he's dealing with a Latin alphabet of 22 letters. We only had 22 letters at that time, so that's pretty workable. Okay, back to Gutenberg here. So he's got his 3 investors. They're working together. One of the investors dies. So the agreement is that they would pay the widow the investment plus interest, and she would go on her way. They continue their journey. The widow didn't like that. She wanted to stay in the business. So she sued Johann and the partners to stay in the business. It goes to court, and eventually the judge says, you got to tell me what you're doing. Show me what you're doing. So Johann lays it all out in the courtroom. This is what we're doing. This is how it's all going to work and everything. Well, it's an open courtroom. There's an audience there watching. But there was also the scribe there that was taking the notes for the court. Well, he reported back to his scribe guild brothers, hey, this guy Gutenberg's going to put us out of business if we let him keep doing this. So mysteriously, Gutenberg's shop burned down the next night. Gutenberg ran away from the city. He escaped down the river to another city, Strasbourg. He starts again. He gets an investor involved. The investor gives him the money he needs, but it's a very tight timeline. Gutenberg moves ahead. Things are moving, we're printing and so forth. But Gutenberg is an innovator. He can't just print the Bibles and sell them. He has to keep improving the process. And this is where he shows his lack of management skills, is he's innovating and he keeps stopping the printing presses. So now the clock is running down and he says, stop, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I got to make this change. And they were all great changes, super important changes. But he ran out of time. The clock runs out, time to pay your bill. He doesn't have the money because he hasn't sold the Bibles, so he's out. He gets kicked out of the business. The investors take over the business. From the time that Gutenberg's shop is burned down, people found out what he's doing with movable type. Other people start copying him. All of this time, there's more and more print shops popping up all around Germany, spreading out to the other nations. This is God's plan, that this is going to go forward and get out to all of the people for the coming Reformation. Gutenberg's struggling. He can't figure out what to do. He tries different things to make a living. Time goes by. Eventually the city, and I'm kind of hurrying here, I apologize if I'm talking fast. Eventually the city of Mainz, Germany, calls him back to the city. This is where it all started, and they hold him up as the hometown hero that invented this amazing thing, movable type. They give him a title, an apartment to live in, a little stipend of money, and an annual allowance of grain and beer. And he's taken care of with his medieval Social Security, right? For the rest of the world, God's plan continues forward. The movable type spreads across Europe. In 70 years, from 1450 to 1520, now there are literally 1,000 or more printing presses with movable type all across Europe. When the reformers come on the scene, Martin Luther, William Tyndale, Francis Scarina, De La Reina, all these guys are going to be translating into the common languages of the people. Those Bibles are highly illegal. If you get caught with them, you can be beaten, jailed, or killed if you get caught with these Bibles. When Tyndale translates the Bible into English, he does it one book of the Bible at a time, starting in the New Testament. Those are being printed and smuggled out to the people, all of the English-speaking people. Now, English was the poor people's language. If you spoke English, it was because you were poor. You would have learned Latin and French if you had any money, right? So there's no written form for English at this time. When Tyndale translates the Bible into English, suddenly everyone across the English-speaking realm is seeing English written the same way. And they begin to learn to read and write English from the Bible all across. It standardizes our language, and now we have a Bible in our language and we learn to read and write from it, right? It took 110 years from the time that the movable type is invented to get around to the Geneva Bible. If you saw the Geneva Bible over here, that was the first Bible that was finally in range where working families could afford to buy a Bible for their home. If you get a Bible in your home, your kids can learn to read and write. Where can they go in life if they can read and write, right? The sky's the limit. So what a blessing it is. William Tyndale sacrificed his life for us to have a written language and the Bible in our language.